This video is on section 7.2 notes, consumer loans. So we've got a couple vocabulary terms that are going to be helpful for us to understand the notes for today. The first is installment loans, which are loans having a fixed number of payments. The second is installment, which is each individual payment for a loan. And the third is finance charge, which is the interest charged on a loan. So we have a few different ways that interest can be calculated, and the first way we're going to talk about is the add-on interest method. So the add-on interest method is when you add on interest due for a loan before determining the payments. And the formula that they use to determine the monthly payment is you take the principal amount plus all the interest that they've tallied up that is going to be owed, and they divide it by the number of monthly payments that you're going to have. So here's an example using this method. If we have a new pair of speakers for your home theater system cost $720, and you take out an add-on loan for 2 years at an annual interest rate of 18%, what will your monthly payments be? So the first thing we have to do is calculate that interest, calculate this part, so we can add it to the principal, add it to the $720, and then divide it by how many monthly payments we're going to have. So interest, in this case, is just going to be simple interest, which we learned about in the last section. Interest is the principal times rate times time, as long as it's simple interest and it doesn't say anything about compounding multiple times a year. So for this situation, we're going to have $720 multiplied by an interest rate of 18% for 2 years. And so the interest that we will end up paying for these speakers is $259.20. So to calculate the monthly payment, we'll take the principal amount, what these speakers actually cost, $720, plus the accumulated interest that we will have for the entire 2 years, and we'll divide it by the number of monthly payments we'll have for 2 years. And so that's 2 years multiplied by 12 months in a year, so 24 monthly payments. So 720 plus 259.20, so that's the entire amount that will be borrowed, divided by 24 monthly payments, means that the monthly payments are going to be $40.80 per month. All right, the next method for calculating interest is the unpaid balance method. The unpaid balance method with finance charges is where the interest is based on the previous month's balance. The minimum monthly payment is the smallest amount of money that can be paid towards a loan or credit card balance each month to keep the account in good standing. All right, so the unpaid balance method for computing the finance charge on a credit card still uses the simple interest formula. However, to calculate the payment amount, you're going to do the previous month's balance plus the finance charge, plus the purchases you made, minus any returns you had, minus any payments you made. So this is what we're going to do for the next example problem. And I'll keep this handy. This formula to me seems pretty intuitive. You're going to be adding the things that you owe and subtracting the things that you don't owe, is basically how you can think of that formula working. So it says, assume that the annual interest rate on your credit card is 18% and your unpaid balance at the beginning of the month was $600. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your finance charge and just see how much it should be. So $600, and you're going to multiply that by 18%. However, that 18% for your finance charge is for a t value of 1/12. And the t value of 1/12 is because you're not doing it for an entire year, you're talking about 1 month. So we're going to calculate this interest by doing 0.18 multiplied by 1/12 for 1 month. So this is us calculating the interest. We're calculating the finance charge. Okay, so 600 times 0.18 times 1/12, $9. So our interest charged here, or our finance charge, is going to be $9. Since then, you purchased ski boots for $130. So those are all the things that you have charged. You have $600 in a previous balance. You have a $9 interest charge. You also bought boots for $130. Those were charged as well. But you did send a payment of $170. So we're going to say $600 that you owe, $9 that you owe, $130 that you owe, but you did pay back $170. Okay? Using the unpaid balance method, what is your credit card bill this month? So this is going to be your credit card bill this month. 600 plus 9 plus 130 minus 170 is $569. So this is what your bill is this month. And then to calculate your finance charge for the next month, you're going to take the $569, multiply it by 18%, multiply it by 1/12, and then you're going to see your finance charge for the next month. Your finance charge for the next month is going to be $8.54. So we're going to say bill this month, finance charge next month. All right. Assume that you just graduated from college with $35,000 in student loans that have a 12% annual simple interest rate. This rate is possible with a private lender. In order to reduce your debt as quickly as possible, beginning next month, you are going to pay $500 per month toward the loan. After your first payment, how much will you owe on your loan? So we're going to calculate the interest that we're paying in the first month alone. So this is the principal amount for the interest. The interest rate is 12%, and the amount of time is just 1 month, so we're going to say 1/12. So this is what we're calculating. We want to see how much interest we're going to have to pay for this 1 month. Okay, so for that first month, we're going to pay $350 in interest. So if you make a $500 payment, $350 of that $500 is not actually paying back on the loan. It's actually just paying interest for the loan. So we'll say $35,000. You're not actually paying all $500 towards the loan. You're only paying 500 minus 350. You're only actually paying 150 towards the principal of the loan itself. So 35,000 minus 150. So you still owe $34,850. All right, recall the speakers you purchased in a previous example. The speakers cost $720, and now you are going to put this purchase on your credit card. Assume that this is the only item that you are charging on the card. The annual interest rate is 18%, and the minimum monthly payment on the loan is the finance charge owed, as well as 2% of the outstanding balance. Assume that each month you are making the minimum payment on your loan. What is your first minimum monthly payment? How much principal have you paid off of your loan? Okay, so the finance charge is the interest. And so for the interest, we're going to do that 720 multiplied by 18% multiplied by 1/12 of a year. So that's $10.80. So that's the finance charge for the speakers. Then we want to calculate the 2% of the outstanding balance that we have to pay. And they said that is the minimum monthly payment. $14.40. Okay, so your first payment is the finance charge plus the minimum payment, $25.20. That is how much you're going to pay in that first month. However, interest is not actually going towards the $720 that you owe. The only thing going towards the $720 that you owe is the minimum monthly payment, the $14.40. So $720 minus $14.40. You still owe over $700. You owe $705.60. All right, now there's one more method that is used to calculate interest, and it is called the average daily balance method. The average daily balance method is the balance, is the average of all daily balances for the previous month. This is one of the most common methods used by the credit card companies. So how much money did you have in debt on the credit card on the first and on the second and on the third and on the fourth? And then they look at all of those daily balances and they find the average of those. And that's how they calculate the interest rate. So it says that the method we're going to use for this is we're going to add the outstanding balance for the account for each day of the month. We're going to divide the total in the step 1 by the number of days in the month. So divide it by 30 or 31 in most cases, except if you're talking about February, you're going to divide it by 28. To find the finance charge, use the formula I equals PRT, where P is the average daily balance found in step 2. R is the annual interest rate, and T is the number of days in the month divided by 360. So before we did 1 out of 12 months for T. Now we're going to do, because we were talking about interest accumulating over a month's time, now we're talking about interest in the course of the number of days in a month out of the days of the year, which is why we're going to do the calculation the way we're going to do it. So you'll see more in a second when we actually do it for this example problem. So it says, suppose that you begin the month of September, which has 30 days. So every time you use the average daily balance method, you're going to have to pay attention to what month they're talking about, because it's going to matter if it's a month with 30 days or a month with 31 days or a month with 28 days. That's going to matter. So suppose that you begin the month of September, which has 30 days, with a credit card balance of $240. And assume that your card has an annual interest rate of 18% and that during September the following adjustments are made on your account. So on the 11th, you pay $60 and that's credited to your account. On the 18th, you charge $24 for iTunes downloads. On the 23rd, you charge $12 for gas. And then we're going to use the average daily balance method to compute the finance charge that will appear on your October credit card statement. So your balance on the 1st of September was $240, and that balance stayed until you made a payment of $60 on the 11th. So for the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, all of those days, your balance was $240. So we're going to do 10 days multiplied by a balance of $240 is a sum of $2,400. Okay, that gives us $2,400. All right, then $240 take away 60 because we made a payment of $60 is $180. And this is how much the balance was on the card from the 11th up until the 18th. So the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. So these are the days that it had that balance. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. It had a balance of $180. So 7 times 180 is 1,260. Okay. Then there was a charge of $24. So 180 plus a charge of $24 is $204. So 204. And this was on the 18th. And this is the balance that there was until the 23rd. So 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. 5 days multiplied by a balance of 204 is $1,020. Okay, and then $12 were charged on the 23rd, so 204 plus 12 is 216. And that's the 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. So 8 times 216. And that's 1,728. Okay, so what we did is we found the outstanding balance for each day of the month, and now we are adding up all of these, and we're going to find the total, and we're going to divide that by 30 days. Okay, 2,400 times 1,260 times 1,020. Sorry, not times. We are adding. Plus. Okay. Plus 1,728. Okay, the total is $6,408. And we're going to divide that by 30 days. And we get an average daily balance of $213.60 per day. That's the average daily balance. So now what we need to do is we need to calculate the interest using principal times rate times time. And the principal is the average daily balance. The rate is 18%. The time is the number of days that we had this average daily balance, which was 30 days out of the year. Okay, so time is the number of years. This is only 30 days out of the whole year. Okay, so our finance charge is going to be $213.60 times an interest rate of 18% times 30 days out of a whole year. And we have an interest charge of $3.16. Or a finance charge of $3.16. It is tedious, but it is the most common way of doing it. All right, next, we have one last example. And this example is comparing two finance methods. So it says, suppose that you began the month of May, which has 31 days, with a credit card balance of $500. The annual interest rate is 21%. On May 11th, you use your credit card to pay for a $400 car repair, and on May 29th, you make a payment of $500. Calculate the finance charge that will appear on the statement for the next month using unpaid balance method, the unpaid balance method, and the average daily balance method. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is work with the unpaid balance method. So the unpaid balance method says start with the balance we have, the $500, and let's calculate the finance charge that we would have incurred based on that unpaid balance. So 500 multiplied by an interest rate of 21%, and then we have 1 month at that interest rate. So 500 times 0.21 times 1/12, $8.75. Okay, so for this month, the month of May, we have $500 plus $8.75 plus the $400 car repair minus the $500 payment. And that's going to be a balance that month of $408.75. Okay, so they said, now for the next month, what is the finance charge that's going to appear? So the finance charge that will appear for the next month is whatever the finance charge that this is going to give. So 408.75 times 21% for 1 month is a finance charge of helps if I have my decimal in the right place. There we go. $7.15. Okay, so the finance charge based on the unpaid balance method is $7.15 for the month of June. That's the finance charge for the next month. Okay, the average daily balance method is the longer method. So we have May 1st, which starts off with the $500, right? And we have the number of days. So we have, it is May 1st until May 11th, and that's when it changes. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. The balance of the account or the balance on the credit card is $500. So we're going to do 500 times 10. Okay, so this is what it's contributing to the total. Then on May 11th, we have the $400 car repair plus $400 for the car. So now our balance is $900, and this is for the 11th until we get to the 29th. So 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th. Now, a lot of people would say that from the 11th to the 29th is 18 days. They would just take 29 minus 11 and they would subtract them. Sorry, this is not the 29th. Should only be the 28th because May 29th is the next time we change the value. Okay, this should only go to the 28th. So a lot of people would look at this and they would say from the 11th to the 28th, that is 17 days. They would subtract those. 28 minus 11 is 17. But if you actually count these, it's not 17 days. It's 18 days. So we have 18 days at $900. So when you subtract these numbers, it's always one more than you think it is. 10 minus 1, you'd think it's 9 days, but we know it's actually 10 days. 28 minus 11, you think it's 17, it's actually 18 days. Okay, so 18 times 900 is 16,200. Okay, and then on the 29th, you make a payment of 500. So this is the 29th, 30th, and 31st. 31 minus 29 is only 2, but this is clearly 3 days. Okay, so you make a payment of 500. That means we got 400 right here. So 3 days times 400 is 1,200. Okay, so what we have to do is total these, find their sum. And the sum is 22,400. We're going to divide that by 31 days. And so $722.58 is the daily balance, the average daily balance. So now what we're going to do is take that average daily balance and calculate the interest. So average daily balance times the interest rate times the number of days that we are using that average daily balance for in the entire year. So 31 days out of the entire year. Gives you an interest charge or a finance charge of $12.89. And so if you compare it, the unpaid balance method had an interest charge of $7.15. The average daily method had a balance of had an interest charge of $12.89. And so that can tell us maybe why this method is more common for credit card companies, because they're going to get more interest from us. So this would be why. But here is how you show your work for those, depending on which method you're going to be using.